Hello, friends. I want you to picture something for me right now. Close your eyes for just a second and imagine this. It is a Tuesday morning. It is 9:30. The sun is just starting to come through the curtains, and you are still in bed, not because you are ill, not because you had a late night, but simply because you do not have to be anywhere. You do not have a boss waiting for you. You do not have a commute to dread. You do not have a meeting room full of people talking about quarterly targets that honestly mean nothing to you anymore. You are 56 years old and you are completely, genuinely, financially free. Now, here is the question I want you to sit with for the next few minutes. Is that actually possible for you? Because I am telling you right now, after doing all the maths, after going through all the numbers, after looking at what the pension rules actually say and what the real cost of living in this country genuinely looks like, retiring at 56 is not some fantasy reserved for city traders and lottery winners. It is something that ordinary working people across the UK can absolutely achieve if they know what they are doing and if they start making the right moves at the right time. So stay with me, because this video is going to walk you through exactly what you need. The real numbers, the honest truth, no fluff, no nonsense, no trying to sell you anything. Just straight talking about pensions, savings, and what a realistic path to retiring at 56 actually looks like in this country today. And before we get into it, if this is the kind of content that speaks to you, if you are someone who is serious about your retirement, serious about your financial future, and you want to stop leaving these decisions to chance, then please hit that subscribe button right now, because this channel is entirely dedicated to helping people just like you figure out their pension, understand their options, and build a retirement they are actually excited about. There is a lot of noise out there and a lot of bad advice, and I want to be the voice that cuts through all of that for you. So subscribe, hit the bell so you never miss a video, and let us get into this. Right, let us start with the big question that I know is already sitting in your head. Why 56? Why is that number so significant? Well, here in the UK, the pension landscape is changing, and 56 is actually quite a strategic age when it comes to accessing your private pension. Currently, the minimum pension access age sits at 55, meaning you can start drawing from your personal or workplace pension from that point. However, the government has confirmed that from 2028 that minimum age is going up to 57. So depending on when you were born and when you are planning to retire, 56 might be right in that transitional window. It is also just a psychologically powerful number because it sits comfortably before the traditional retirement age. It is early enough to genuinely enjoy your health and energy, and it is realistic enough that with proper planning, most people in their 30s and 40s can genuinely work towards it. So that is why we are using 56. It is not random, it is strategic. Now let us talk about the actual money. How much do you need to retire at 56 in the UK? And I want to be honest with you here, because there is no single magic number that works for everyone. But what I can do is give you a proper framework that you can apply to your own situation. So let us walk through this together. The first thing you need to figure out is what kind of retirement you actually want. And I mean actually want, not what you think you should want or what sounds sensible, because the numbers are going to be very different depending on your answer. The Pensions and Lifetime Savings Association, which is the body that puts out the retirement living standards in this country, breaks retirement income into three categories. There is the minimum standard, which currently sits at around £14,500 a year for a single person. This covers all your basic needs, but leaves very little room for anything beyond that. Then there is the moderate standard, which is around £31,000 a year for a single person. This gives you a reasonable lifestyle, a holiday or two, running a car, eating out occasionally. And then there is the comfortable standard, which comes in at around £43,000 a year for a single person. This gives you proper financial security, more holidays, more flexibility, more of the good stuff. Now I want to ask you something. Which of those feels like the retirement you actually want? Because I would bet that most of you watching this are aiming somewhere between moderate and comfortable, and that is completely reasonable. So let us use £31,000 to £43,000 a year as our working range and build the maths around that. Here is where it gets really important. When you retire at 56, you are not going to receive your state pension straight away. The current state pension age is 66, and there is talk it could rise to 67 and beyond in the coming years. So from the age of 56 to whenever you become eligible for your state pension, you are on your own. You have got to fund that entire period entirely from your private pension, your savings, your investments, and any other income sources you have built up. That is potentially 10 years or more of funding your retirement before the state pension kicks in to help. That is a crucial piece of the puzzle that a lot of people completely overlook when they start daydreaming about early retirement. So let us do the maths properly. If you want a moderate retirement income of £31,000 a year and you retire at 56 and the state pension kicks in at 66, you need to fund 10 full years yourself before any state pension money arrives. The full new state pension is currently around £11,500 a year. So once that starts at 66, your private pension only needs to top up by about £19,500 a year to keep you at that 31,000 level. But for those first 10 years, you need the full 31,000 coming from your own pot. Now here is where the safe withdrawal rate comes in, and this is something I want you to really pay attention to because it is fundamental to making your money last. The general rule that most financial planners work to is something called the 4% rule. This basically means that if you withdraw no more than 4% of your pension pot per year, and your remaining pot is invested sensibly, your money should in theory last for 30 years or more. Some experts now say 3.5% is safer, especially given how long people are living and the current economic uncertainty. But let us use 4% as our starting point. If you need £31,000 a year from your pot and you divide that by 4%, you get a required pot of £775,000. That is what you need at age 56 to sustain a moderate retirement income for the rest of your life at a 4% withdrawal rate before the state pension kicks in. Now, once the state pension does kick in at 66, you only need your pot to generate about £19,500 a year. So your withdrawal rate effectively drops, which means your pot lasts even longer. That is genuinely reassuring. But if you are aiming for the comfortable level of around £43,000 a year, the maths shifts significantly. 43,000 divided by 4% gives you a required pot of £1,075,000. So, in round numbers, you are looking at needing a pot of somewhere between £775,000 and just over £1 million to retire at 56 with a genuinely comfortable income. Now I know those numbers might feel enormous right now, especially if you are sitting there looking at your current pension statement and thinking that is nowhere near where I need to be. But stay with me because we are going to talk about how to actually get there. The numbers only feel impossible until you have got a plan. But wait, I want to ask you this. Do you actually know what is in your pension right now? Do you know how much you have got? What it is invested in, what the charges are, whether your employer is putting in as much as they could be. Because if you do not know the answers to those questions, and honestly most people do not, then that is the very first thing you need to sort out. Before any of the big strategy stuff can happen, you need to know your starting point. So pause this video if you need to, go and dig out your pension statements, log into your provider online, and find out exactly where you stand, because you cannot map a route if you do not know where you are starting from, right? So we have established the target. Now, let me talk about how you actually build a pot that size. And I want to be realistic with you here. because there is no shortcut that does not involve either earning more, saving more, or both. But there are definitely smart ways to do it that a lot of people are not taking advantage of. The first and most powerful tool in your pension building arsenal is your workplace pension, and specifically your employer contributions. If your employer offers to match contributions beyond the legal minimum, and many do, you need to be maximizing that. This is essentially free money. If you are only contributing the minimum because you think you cannot afford more, I want you to really challenge that assumption. Even increasing your contribution by 1 or 2% could make a difference of tens of thousands of pounds by the time you reach 56. The compounding effect of that extra money growing over 10, 15, 20 years is extraordinary. Let me give you a real example. Say you are 40 years old right now. You want to retire at 56. That gives you 16 years to build your pot. If you currently have a pension pot of £100,000 and you contribute £1,000 a month on top of employer contributions, and you get an average annual growth rate of 7%, which is a reasonable long-term assumption for a diversified investment portfolio, then, after 16 years, your pot would be worth approximately £840,000. That gets you well within the range we talked about for a moderate to comfortable retirement income. And that is with some fairly conservative assumptions. Now, obviously, if you are starting from a smaller pot or contributing less, the numbers change. But the principle holds. Time in the market and consistent contributions are the most powerful things working in your favor. So the earlier you get serious about this, the better. Which brings me to another important question for you. How old are you right now? Because your answer to that question completely changes the urgency of what I am about to say next. If you are in your 30s, you have got time on your side, and compound growth will do an enormous amount of the heavy lifting for you. If you are in your 40s, you still have time, but you need to be contributing meaningfully right now and probably thinking about increasing those contributions significantly. If you are in your early 50s and you are hoping to retire at 56, well, we need to have a very honest conversation about what is realistic and whether some adjustments to the plan might be needed. Another thing I want to talk about is what many people call a SIPP, which stands for Self-Invested Personal Pension. If your workplace pension does not give you the investment options you want, or if you are self-employed and do not have a workplace pension, a SIPP gives you much more control over how your money is invested. You can invest in a wide range of funds, shares, and other assets, and the tax relief you get on pension contributions is genuinely one of the most generous things the government offers. As a basic rate taxpayer, you get 20% tax relief. As a higher rate taxpayer, you can claim 40%. So for every £80 you put into your pension, the government tops it up to £100 if you are a basic rate taxpayer. That is an instant 25% return before your money has even been invested. You simply cannot get that anywhere else. Now, let us talk about something that I think does not get discussed enough in conversations about early retirement, and that is lifestyle inflation and the gap years. When you retire at 56, you are likely to be significantly more active than you would be at 70. You might want to travel more. You might want to pursue hobbies that cost money. You might want to support children or grandchildren financially. The early years of retirement are often more expensive than people expect, not less. And this is something your plan needs to account for. Do not assume your spending is going to drop just because you are retired. In the early years, it very well might go up. This also brings up the question of healthcare costs. We are lucky in the UK to have the NHS, which removes one of the biggest financial burdens that early retirees in countries like America have to deal with. However, as you get older, you might choose to go private for certain things. You might need adaptations to your home. You might need care support later in life. These are costs that tend to creep up later in retirement, and your pot needs to be big enough and resilient enough to handle them. One strategy that I think is really worth considering for anyone targeting early retirement is having what I call a bridge account. This is basically a separate pot of money, either in an ISA or in a general investment account that you use to fund your living costs from the moment you retire at 56 until you can access your pension, or in the case of someone who already has pension access, to keep your pension withdrawal rate down in those early years. A stocks and shares ISA is a fantastic vehicle for this because your money grows tax-free and you can withdraw it whenever you want without any penalties. If you have been maximizing your ISA allowance, which is currently £20,000 a year alongside your pension contributions, you could build a really meaningful bridge pot that gives you enormous flexibility in early retirement. I also want to talk about debt because this is something that trips a lot of people up. If you are carrying significant debt into retirement, whether that is mortgage debt, credit card debt, car finance, whatever it might be, that changes your numbers considerably. Ideally, you want to enter retirement with your mortgage paid off or very nearly paid off. The mental and financial freedom of not having that monthly obligation is worth an enormous amount. If you have got a plan to retire at 56, but you will still have 10 years left on your mortgage, you need to factor those repayments into your income needs, or you need to have a plan to overpay and clear it before you stop working. Now, I want to address something that I know some of you are thinking. What if I want to do a bit of work in retirement? What if I do not want to stop completely at 56? I just want to stop doing the job I am currently doing. This is actually a really sensible approach and one that more and more people are taking. Semi-retirement, or what some people call flexible retirement, can significantly reduce the pressure on your pension pot. Even if you earn £10,000 or £15,000 a year doing something you enjoy, whether that is consultancy, tutoring, a small business, working a few days a week, that income can cover a chunk of your living costs and mean you are drawing a lot less from your pension each year. Over time, that makes a huge difference to the longevity of your pot. And psychologically, a lot of people find a gradual transition out of full-time work is actually more satisfying than going from 100% to zero overnight. There is also the option of downsizing your home. A lot of people approaching retirement are sitting in family homes that are larger than they need. If you can sell and downsize, the equity you release can be a significant financial boost that either goes directly into your retirement fund or reduces the amount you need to draw from your pension. This is not the right choice for everyone, and there are emotional considerations beyond just the financial ones. But if you are a few £100,000 of equity away from making your early retirement plan work, it is absolutely worth thinking about. Let me also quickly touch on the importance of getting proper financial advice if your situation is complicated. If you have got multiple pension pots from different employers over the years, if you have got a defined benefit pension from an old job, if you have got complex investments or business interests, please do not try to figure all of this out entirely on your own. A properly qualified independent financial advisor who specializes in retirement planning can be worth many times their fee in terms of the clarity, the optimization, and the peace of mind they provide. I am not saying you cannot understand this stuff, because clearly you can. You are here watching this video. But some decisions are significant enough that professional input is genuinely valuable. So let us bring this all together and give you a really clear summary of what you actually need to retire at 56 in the UK. You need a pension pot of somewhere between £775,000 and just over £1 million, depending on your desired lifestyle. You need that pot to be invested sensibly so that it can sustain a withdrawal rate of around 4% per year. You ideally want to enter retirement mortgage free or very close to it. You need to understand the gap between age 56 and your state pension age and plan for that period specifically. You should consider building a bridge pot through ISAs alongside your pension. You should maximize your employer contributions and tax relief because these are among the most powerful tools available to you. And you need to account for the fact that early retirement can actually be more expensive in the early years, not less. The honest truth is that retiring at 56 is absolutely achievable for many people in the UK, but it does not happen by accident. It does not happen by just paying into your workplace pension and hoping for the best. It requires a plan, it requires discipline, and it requires you to start taking your pension seriously today, not next year, not when you hit 50, today. Because every single year you wait, every year of compound growth you miss out on makes the journey harder. The people who retire comfortably at 56 are not necessarily the highest earners. They are the people who started planning early, made smart decisions about their money, and stayed consistent even when it felt boring or difficult. So here is what I want you to do right now. Go and find out exactly what is in your pension pot. Write down the number. Then think about the lifestyle you want in retirement and work out roughly what income you need. Then look at where you are now and where you need to get to. And if the gap feels scary, that is okay. That is actually a really good sign because it means you are taking it seriously. Because the people who end up in trouble in retirement are not the ones who noticed the gap and felt worried. They are the ones who never looked at all. If this video has been useful to you, please give it a thumbs up because it genuinely helps other people find this content, and it means the world to me to know that this stuff is landing with you. And if you have not subscribed yet, then please do it right now. Every week I'm putting out content specifically designed to help people in the UK understand their pension, make better financial decisions, and build a retirement they are genuinely looking forward to. This is a community of people who are done leaving their future to chance, and I would love to have you as part of it. Leave a comment below and tell me what age you are hoping to retire at, and what your biggest challenge is right now when it comes to your pension. I read every single comment, and I genuinely love hearing from you. Your question might even inspire the next video, right? I will see you in the next one.